Hello, and welcome to the Achieve Optimum Health Summit, where we explore how to prevent and reverse chronic illness. I'm Angelina Kardash, your summit host, and today I have a very special guest, Dr. Will Tuttle. Dr. Tuttle is a speaker and visionary educator presented widely through North America and worldwide. He's an author of the bestseller book, The World Peace Diet, published in 16 languages. A former Zen monk, he is featured in a number of documentary films, and he is also a co-founder of the Worldwide Prayer Circle for Animals. Welcome, Dr. Tuttle. I'm so excited to host you here today.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be with you, Angelina. Thanks.
You're welcome. And today I would like us to talk about achieving optimum health by reconsidering our food choices, which directly affects our health, the earth, animals, and future generations, and how making bad choices makes us sick. So please tell us about yourself and your journey to becoming vegan.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening in here and watching. The basic message I guess I have is that I've been a vegan now for 40 years. So it's been a tremendous adventure. I would say the smartest thing I ever did was going vegan, besides marrying my wonderful wife, Madeline, just going vegan because it's a way of healing at many levels. And that's been my experience, and also of awakening and being part of an awakening on this planet of human consciousness. Because what animal agriculture does, in my experience, is it's a way of getting food that concentrates toxins, many different types of toxins. So we're eating these physical toxins that are in animal foods, both from what they're eating and drinking and so forth, but also that are just inherent in animal foods. But we're also eating what I refer to in the World Peace Diet as metaphysical toxins, because we're eating and causing a lot of suffering to animals, a lot of terror and fear and pain and despair and anxiety and misery. And we're not only causing it to these animals, we're eating it. So my own story is pretty similar, I think, to everyone else, in the sense that I was born here, ate the usual meals, lots of meat, dairy, and eggs, never questioned it at all. Just I used to go away in the summer to a summer camp in Vermont when I was a young teenager, 13, 14 years old. And I was taught how to catch my own chickens and how to cut their heads off, and every year we would kill a cow. The dairy cows, you have to kill them. You can't just, when they get to be 5 years old, that's it. So even though they would live 25 years. So I participated in all of that. I saw how it all goes. And I was fine. I just thought, if we don't eat these animal foods, we'll die of a protein deficiency, we'll die of a calcium deficiency. That's what I was told. And I didn't know any better. So the good news for me, which I think relates directly to this call we're having, is that I was fortunate right after college to leave home and go on a pilgrimage. It's like a spiritual pilgrimage is what it felt like to me at the time in 1975, when I was about 22 years old. And I remember at one point we walked all the way to Tennessee, my brother and I, to Alabama. And in Tennessee, we stayed for a little while at a commune called The Farm. It's the largest hippie commune in the world at that time. About 900 people were living there, and they were all vegetarians. So there they were, 900, and they were actually vegans. No one heard of the word vegan back in 1975, so you couldn't use it. But basically, they didn't eat any meat or dairy or eggs, and they were doing great. Everybody was healthy. They had about 200 children. Most of them were born on the farm. Most of them were vegan from birth, and they were doing great. So I could see that you don't need to eat animal foods to be healthy, and I asked them why they were doing it, and their reasons were basically two. One was that most of the food we're growing, instead of feeding to people who are hungry, we're feeding to animals, and it's very wasteful. So we have chronic hunger and starvation for the poor people, and then the rich people are getting all these diseases that we get when we feed most of the grain and petroleum and water to animals, and we get diabetes and liver disease and kidney disease and heart disease and strokes and dementia, and all these foods, these diseases are created by animal-based food. So they pointed out to me that they're eating lower on the food chain, not only so they'd be healthier, but so there'd be enough food for everyone to eat, so we would have peace, so we'd have a healthier society. It's very important, I think, to make that connection. So I kind of was very inspired, I have to say, by these people to see that they were actually walking their talk, and they were eating a plant-based diet because they cared about other people. And then they also mentioned the second reason was just what animals go through, and they told me about some of the mutilations and killing and all that. And so their example was the main thing, just the example, eating with them every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, learning how to eat, soybeans and grains. I mean, everyone, I think, already eats a lot of plant-based food anyway, but for me, it was making those connections. So that was the great breakthrough for me. I never ate meat in my life since that day back in 1975. And it's really due to the power of community. And that's the main point I think I try to bring in my teachings, is that the only reason anyone eats animal foods in the first place is because of the communities we're raised in. We would never think of it on our own. We do it because our parents and teachers and the doctors and the media, they all teach us to eat meat and dairy and eggs. So we do. We're taught to do that. So the thing to do, actually, if we want to create healing in the world and create a world of peace and harmony, is to create alternative communities like we have right now, like this, what we're talking. This is your whole summit, essentially, is an alternative community of conversations that are based, instead of being based on domination and exploitation and oppression and disease, it's based on kindness and love and caring and harmony and waking up and healing. And that's what we need to do. We need to create more and more and more and more of these alternative communities that actually feed our wisdom, that come out of our wisdom, that nourish our wisdom, that nourish the underlying sense of awareness that we have, that we're all interconnected. And so that essentially for me has been the journey. It was the farm in Tennessee. And then the other big thing for me a few years later, when I was a little older, it was 1984, so I was in my late 20s, I decided to shave my head and become a Zen Buddhist monk. And so I went to South Korea, and I was living in this monastery called Songwangsa. And I realized for the second time in my life, I'm in a vegan community. The difference was this community had been practicing it for 800 years. So I realized that this is not just this new-fangled hippie idea from California. This is an ancient wisdom tradition that actually goes back hundreds, probably thousands of years, that people have understood that if we're really serious about being aware and conscious and healthy ourselves and creating a culture that's also aware and healthy, then we cannot be eating animal foods, because that's causing animals to live in misery and violence and terror. And their interests are to them, as important to them as my interests are to me. The whole idea really in spiritual life is to cultivate compassion and kindness and put ourselves in the other person's moccasins, right? To put ourselves in their shoes. And animals, we all know, anyone who has a dog or a cat knows that these beings have interests, that there's someone in there, and they look out of their eyes like I'm looking out of my eyes, and they don't want to suffer. And so if I cause them suffering unnecessarily, that's going to boomerang back. It comes back. Whatever we sow, we reap. So if we're sowing seeds of misery and violence and disease in other beings, what are we going to reap? We're going to reap the same thing in us. And that's what we see. We see these huge problems in our society of disease and obesity and terrorism and war and environmental devastation and poverty and injustice. It has one root, one primary root, which is animal agriculture. We're sowing those seeds every day, billions of times, in billions of animals. We're going to reap the same thing in ourselves. So that's why I wrote the World Peace Diet, was really to create the foundational document for our society to understand the interconnection on every level. So the idea is to just understand it, historically, anthropologically, nutritionally, psychologically, spiritually, culturally, socially, and nutritionally, on every level, economically. And when we do that, I think it's so empowering, because we realize that our life does make a difference. We can be healthy, but not only can we just be healthy, we can help the whole society to be healthy. We can raise the awareness and be an example of radiant health, on not just physically, but psychologically and spiritually. And when we do that, I think then we're really living a life of meaning and authenticity, which is so important, because our life is temporary. We're just here for a few years. We don't want to fritter away our time just making others suffer and being sick ourselves. We want to live our few years that we're here in the best possible way. And I think that means to find our own unique contribution that we can make, and to make it. And that's not always easy in our society, which is pushing us to be asleep all the time. So to wake up and help each other be awake. And that means, I think, questioning the food. The food is the big key. The food is everything. Yeah.
It so deeply resonates with me. What are you talking about? This connection between the food we're eating and our, emotional reactions and compassion and, love relationship. I mean, it's a basic, it's essential. And you're so right that we must deliver this message and we need to be open to the public. And I mean, those summits and all other work that people do, just basically spreading this information to humanity, that's huge. And what you said, that you were so inspired, right, by observing the lifestyle of those people who lived in this village, and that, and that's basically inspired you to write your book, The World Peace Diet. What is the main message of your book and your work?
The main message is good news. I have to say, the main message is good news. Sometimes it doesn't sound like good news because I talk about all the violence of animal agriculture and the suffering of the environment and the cutting down of rainforest. But the basic message is good news, which is that all of us as human beings have been given a wonderful gift. We've been given the gift of a physical body that does not require any animal to suffer, to get all the nutrients that we need to thrive and celebrate our lives on this beautiful earth. That's the gift we've been given. Mm-hmm. And the other good news is that we can feed everyone on this earth on a fraction of the land, on a fraction of the resources, the water, the petroleum, the pollution. When we wake up and move toward a plant-based way of eating, because it's much more efficient. We're growing huge amounts of grain. Over half, probably 2/3 of the grain and food we're growing, we're feeding to these imprisoned animals, who convert it to saturated fat, cholesterol, acidifying and inflammatory animal protein, huge amounts of sewage, nitrous oxide, methane, totally polluting substances that are harmful if we eat them. They're harmful in the earth. It makes no sense. I mean, there's no reason for us to do it. It's just this inertia. It somehow is going along. So the good news is that our earth can thrive, we can actually create a society of peace and harmony. There's nothing objectively stopping us. There's nothing standing in our way between where we are now and a world of harmony and peace and abundance for ourselves and for the planet. It's just this food system of imprisoning millions of animals, which is destroying the world on the outer level. So a lot of the World Peace Diet, the main message is just understanding that how animal agriculture is harmful to our physical health, understanding how animal agriculture is harmful to our cultural health, understanding how animal agriculture is harmful to our environmental health. But then, not stopping there, understanding how not only is animal agriculture the worst thing we're doing to the outer world, to really understand that even worse, in a way, is what it does to the inner landscape of our own awareness, of our consciousness, because animal agriculture, unfortunately, forces us to disconnect from ourselves, to disconnect from nature, to disconnect from animals, to disconnect from our wisdom and our sensitivity and our natural compassion. We have to. We can't just sit there and go to McDonald's and buy a burger and eat it without being disconnected. The so-called spiritual teachers who are teaching people spiritually, they think, and everybody thinks, and they don't talk about this. They're not spiritual teachers. They're not. If someone's not bringing this up, if they're ignoring it, or worse, if they're eating animal foods, how can they be a spiritual teacher? Because this culture is imprisoned by imprisoning animals, and spirituality is about liberation. It's about compassion and awareness, not being unconscious, enslaving other beings, being enslaved, being afraid to be aware. I mean, that's the opposite of spirituality. It's demonic. Animal agriculture is demonic. It's actually breaking families apart by the millions every day, stealing babies from their mothers every day, impregnating females on rape racks every day, stealing their milk, stealing their eggs, stealing their purposes, stealing their lives, and then eating it and feeding it to our children. There's nothing more violent and demonic than animal agriculture. We have to be very clear about that. So animal agriculture is not only destroying the outer world in a more significant way, it harms our inner world. It harms our natural wisdom and sensitivity to such a point that we just go along with the system here, just destroying the rainforest, destroying the climate, destroying the oceans, destroying our children's capacities for health and harmony. And really our plan, I think we can see very clearly that animal agriculture is doing to us what it does to animals, which is destroy their purposes. And so what veganism is simply, in many ways, a natural, healthy response to all this. It's the awakening of the sacred feminine wisdom within all of us, especially women, I think, are getting it, but men too have to get it, that natural feminine wisdom, which yearns to love life and care for the children and care for the neighborhood and the land and the web of life here. As that rises up, then we naturally go vegan, of course. I mean, it's obvious, and we naturally share this with other people. And I think it's important to share it in a positive way, a way of love and respect, because we're all wounded. If someone's wounded, there's no point in kicking them and yelling at them and criticizing them. The whole idea is to just share what we've learned, that there's no nutrients that we need to be healthy that we have to harm animals to get. That's the good news. And the good news is we can feed everyone and we can be healthier and happier. So now let's go for it. Let's together create a more conscious and aware world. And each one of us has something we can do. Each one of us has a gift we can give in this lifetime to help that happen. That's more good news. We can actually live a life of purpose. What better thing to ask for? So it's really something to be grateful for, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I also think that, the movies, the documentaries, like, for instance, The Conspiracy, they provide a lot of information and evidence for us so we can learn, what animal agriculture does to our universe, to our, to our health, to our world, to everything. I was pretty amazed. Recently I visited the aquarium in San Diego with my family, and I was amazed by the huge techno exhibition. Basically, they invested a lot in the technologies and basically showing what is animal agriculture, and it was so powerful. And I have a picture on my phone, and I just want to read the fact that that they were talking just in this place. Producing 1 pound of beef requires 1,800 gallons of water, right? And we all talk about the basically the sustainability and how we can create sustainable agriculture and so forth. And there are a lot of facts like that, what animal agriculture does to our universe. So all these documentaries are, so powerful, and I really advise our viewers to maybe, watch Conspiracies. Do you have any other recommendations for people for other documentaries, maybe the ones that you were published on?
Great. Yeah, no, you're right. It's all about education and learning and helping people understand the consequences of their actions. And so I think there's a variety of ways of getting this information. Documentaries are a great way. A lot of people don't want to read a book, but they'll watch a movie for an hour. Okay, an hour and a half, I watch a documentary. And the information can be presented in a way that's very compelling. You can see graphs, and I also like books, because a book I can slowly digest it and visualize it and so forth too. But I also think documentaries have a big part to play. And Cowspiracy, of course, is a very important film. Kip Anderson went through our World Peace Diet Facilitator training and told me he wanted to make books on the make films about the World Peace Diet, or a film about the World Peace Diet. And I think it's several sections. He made another movie that I highly recommend called What the Health. What the Health.
Wonderful movie, yes.
That's a very good documentary. That's more about the health aspect. I believe he's working on another movie about the spiritual dimension as well. There's other books that are, other films that are very helpful too. There's a film called Speciesism, which I think is very good. There's Forks Over Knives, which is a film that goes into the health dimension quite a bit. There's a lot of great YouTube, films as well. There's so many films coming out now. Actually, I've kind of lost track of them all.
The Game Changer, right? That's
Game Changer is great. Yeah, I watched that recently, and I think that's very, very well done. And I've just read the other day that there's been this whole movement to try to debunk the Game Changers. Oh, that couldn't be true. It couldn't be true. So they had this main debunker guy come on one of the big video channels, Joe Rogan. And he debunked the whole thing, and everybody thought, oh yeah. Then they had the guy who made the film, James Wilkes, come on and debate this guy who tried to debunk the Game Changers. And James Wilkes absolutely, completely defeated this guy that was trying to debunk the Game Changers. He showed that actually everything in that film is true. It's based on the best scientific evidence that we have, that these efforts to debunk the Game Changers are based on completely phony science. And so that's the good news. That's what I found myself. I've been a vegan for 40 years, my own experience. I'm healthier today than most people are in their 20s, and I'm in my late 60s. So I think the whole idea is to understand that we've been given this gift of bodies that don't need it, and they do much better actually, eating a healthy, plant-based, organic, local as much as possible way of eating. That's really the foundation of wonderful health for ourselves and for the whole environment. We're all interconnected. So the thing I really love now is that it used to be when I first became a vegan, there was only maybe one movie and maybe two books, and maybe, it was a very small movement. Today it is exploding so fast, I can't begin to keep up with it. There's so many people that have amazing blogs and YouTube channels and are doing, like you're doing, summits, bringing out information, more and more plant-based doctors, films, veg fests. I mean, there's like millions and millions of points of light that are sharing and connecting.
Vegan challenges. I mean, that's another thing that's happening,
Veganuary,
right?
Veganuary
Stuff challenges. I mean, that's the entire city organizing the challenge, and they sign up different restaurants, right? And they provide vegan options. That's amazing. That's what we did actually here in Reno, Nevada, and we had a great success with the vegan challenge.
Is that right? Yeah, see, that's another thing. There's so many people having these creative ideas. So that's really what it takes, I think.
Right. So what do you believe is our healthiest diet and way of living?
Well, basically, there's a lot to say about that. That's a huge question. And a lot of people, I don't want to reduce it to food. I mean, food is huge. Sure. Food is very important. So I would say from the point of view of food, which we could talk for a long time, but plant-based, number one. No animal-based foods are necessary, and they concentrate toxins and they're harmful. Organic is very important. I would say organic and vegan go together, because as soon as I'm paying for and eating foods that are grown with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, chemical fertilizers, I'm killing birds and fish and insects and butterflies, and it's this destruction of nature. So organic is very important, and plant-based, and then as much as possible local, as much as possible grow it yourself if you can, or support local farmers if you can. I think the more we create more local self-sufficiency for food and for energy, the better it is for us and for our world. So that's very important. We have now ourselves, Madeline and I, have created a food forest here. When we used to live on the road in an RV for about 17 years, and we just grew sprouts because that's all I could do. But now we have about, 60 fruit and nut trees we've planted, and we have a lot of berries and herbs and vegetables and all this stuff. So I think even if you don't have a lot of land, just a little bit, or try to grow some food yourself, because when we put our energy into plants, the plants give us back the energy we're putting into them. See, we don't understand agriculture at all. I'm thinking if we want to really be healthy, we should grow our food with love and awareness. And those plants are just ready to be food for us. So the more we grow the food ourselves, the more the food knows us. And we put our energy into the plants. And over the years, the food becomes medicine more and more for us. So this is something we've forgotten. This is ancient wisdom that's been taken away from us. And now we eat other people's food, which is kind of weird. We eat food that we do plant agriculture the way we do animal agriculture. That's the thing I have to emphasize. Long ago, there was plant agriculture. That was the first one. And that was done by women, mainly women's work. It was working with the natural cycles of nature, working with the natural abundance. You plant one seed, you get 1,000 seeds, this right. Wonderful givingness of, the tree gives you all these apples and the other things grow. It was always harmonious, essentially. Whereas animal agriculture, which also emerged around a little later, was men's work, and it was always fighting. It was like the cows didn't want to have their babies stolen, the sheep didn't want to be confined. You had to use violence, you had to dominate, you had to exploit them, and so it brings out the worst in people. So today we live in an animal agriculture-based society. So we do plant agriculture the way we do animal agriculture. We use pesticides, herbicides, fungus. We genetically engineer. We have these vast monocrop killing fields. It's not the way to do it. So we have to get back to growing food the way we know how to do it. You know, small scale, local, organic. You can grow huge amounts of food in a small amount of land, and it's much healthier, and you're connected. So growing our own food, we look at it as some like a low level work. It's a high level work. Growing food for people is very noble work. It should be honored, something really honored. So that's an important part of health, I would say. Healthy food, and not just the food itself, but preparing it with love, preparing it with consciousness, eating it with awareness, eating it with a sense of gratitude. Our whole state of consciousness is very important. We have to think of health. We have to realize health, our physical health, is connected to everything. It's connected to our mind. It's connected to our purpose. So to be healthy, we have to take time every day to meditate, I believe. We should take time every day for quiet contemplation, to connect with our purpose, to connect with the fact that what I am is not just a body, that what I am is eternal consciousness that is manifesting through a body. So to really get out of this prison of being a piece of meat, just like we treat cows and pigs and chickens like they're just a piece of meat, and we treat ourselves that way. So we're not going to be healthy if we think that. We need to realize we're infinite eternal life that was never born and will never die, essentially. And once we connect with that, then our body is much more energized, because we understand we're not just this body. If I think I'm just this body, I contract. I'm trying to defend against microbes and viruses. I'm trying to fight against this and that. We're never going to be healthy. That's what the pharmaceutical industry wants you to think. That's how you imprison people. You make you say, oh, it's all genetic, so you have to buy our drugs to be healthy. Don't believe any of that. I mean, that's all lies. It's not true. What we are, we can change our genes. Our consciousness, our awareness, our lifestyle choices, our food, all of that is critical. So we should try to cultivate really positive habits. Like for me, I haven't had drunk alcohol since I was, I don't know when, in college, 50 years ago. And I would just say, don't drink toxic things, don't smoke, don't, all that. I mean, I haven't had Coke and coffee, or I don't have any of that stuff. Just, pure good water. We have a purifier, clean food, clean thoughts. Just meditate and practice sending love to others all the time. There's no reason to criticize other people. Our relationships are very important to be healthy. Many people are sick because their relationships are toxic. They're arguing, they're criticizing, they feel criticized. So they're in relationships. Relationships can be worse. You can eat a total vegan organic diet and be sick as heck if relationships are toxic, or if you're stressed and not taking time to meditate. It's not just the food. I mean, food is important, but we can be eating really healthy food and be very unhealthy because there's so many other aspects. We have to be getting exercise, get outside, connect with nature, and use our body. That's really important. We have a physical body. It's good to exercise it. And then be creative. We have to do something. If we don't have a creative outlet, our body's like, well, why am I here? What am I doing? If we have a creative outlet, then our body, all our cells in our body want to do something. They want to be healthy just so they can contribute to make music, make art, do some writing, do some speaking, do some traveling, do some yoga, some Tai Chi, something, have a reason for living, a purpose. Is so important. If we have a purpose, we're going to be healthy. If it's a strong purpose, our mind will say, I have a mission in my life. I'm here for a reason, and have something. We get up in the morning, we feel like, gosh, I have a reason to live. I'm grateful for another day to contribute something. That's very important to be healthy. So all these things are a constellation. Our thoughts, our feelings, our sense of purpose, a sense of a mission, our relationships, our connection with nature, our exercise, our creativity, our food, what we're eating and drinking, how we're living, our thoughts, taking time to be quiet. I mean, there's so many aspects that really are important to be aware of. And so I think when someone says, oh, you're a vegan and you got sick, what happened? That's not just the food. Food is important, but it's just one aspect of a whole, really a whole kaleidoscope of interconnecting parts that support each other. The healthier we feel, the more we're going to exercise, the more our relationships are going to be harmonious. All these things, we can create virtuous cycles. The more we're eating healthy food, the more we don't want to engage in toxic conversations. I mean, all these things feed each other. So it's important to keep it going and realize also, finally, the last thing I'll say is just realize that we live in a society, unfortunately, that in many ways is against all of this, right? In many ways, our media is pushing us to be a victim and pushing us to go see the doctor and get a drug for something rather than taking responsibility for our own health. That's one thing. I mean, I don't go to doctors. I haven't been to a doctor, I think the last time was almost 50 years ago. So I think, just taking responsibility for our own health. I'm responsible for my health. So I'm not going to plan on going to a doctor to get a drug. I'm going to be conscious of my food and my life and take responsibility. The more we do that, the healthier we'll be. We'll have a sense of being a being rather than just being at the mercy of the world. And so we have to be able to stand porter at the gate of the thoughts that are coming in and the experiences that are coming in, and don't let the mass consciousness that's always telling us that we're getting old, now we're going to be sick, or that I'm this kind of person, so I'm going to have that kind of problem, or it runs in the family, or all this stuff. We don't believe it. I mean, just don't believe it. What I am is an expression of life, and I don't have to buy into those thoughts because they make a reality. Our thoughts do make a reality. And I think the more we are conscious of that, the happier and healthier we can be for ourselves. And that helps other people too. It's not just for ourselves. I think being healthy is one of the most compassionate things, because when we're healthy, we're helping other people be healthy. If I'm sick all the time, then people have to take care of me, and it's not such good karma. So I think really taking responsibility for our health means to inquire and explore into all these different areas of our life and do the best we can in every area of our life to bring it into alignment with our values of kindness and compassion and creativity and caring and eternal living. And when we do that, then I think we'll find it manifests, more or less.
Thank you so much for your word. This is such a powerful message, And I absolutely agree with what you said. And I think, finding a peace with yourself, that's the number one goal of all of us, purpose and peace. And what you talked about, having loving relationship and be compassionate. And when you do that, so it's not just diet. I mean, there is other aspects, and our life is based on many pillars, which is, diet and love, relationship, and, basically our purpose in life, and, physical activities. And it's just taking control of our health, right? So, and everyone can do that. And there is a proof. And in that summit, we talk a lot about how people were able to reverse their chronic conditions. I'm a like a pure example of that, how I was able to reverse my chronic condition was just, diet and everything else. And other people's, done it. So it's really great that you talk in your book about all of that, and about the piece of the diet, and what we can do, what can each of us do today and every day to effectively contribute to the world peace.
Yeah, I think the main thing really I would say is, first of all, go vegan. If you haven't gone vegan, that's a key, because that's the underlying foundation. As long as I'm taking out my wallet and paying someone somewhere to stab an animal or to impregnate her against her will or steal her baby, I'm causing so much suffering. I'm causing suffering to the animals. I'm causing suffering to the worker who has to do that. It's well understood that these workers have the highest rates of injury and drug addiction and suicide and alcoholism. Do I want to sow seeds like that because I want to eat meat and dairy and eggs, and causing world hunger, causing the destruction of rainforests? So the most important thing, number one, to contribute to world peace is to move to a totally plant-based diet. And like I said earlier, organic, and as much as possible local. The more we can do that, I think that's a wonderful foundation to contribute to world peace, and to understand the reasons why, so that we're not tempted when someone says, well, come on, have a little butter or whatever. We're not going to say, okay, just remember that butter comes from that's a calf that was killed to get that butter. It's not, I'm not going to pay for someone to stab and kill a calf so I can have some butter. And once we get really clear about that, then our life has a foundation of peace, of real peace, because food is our most intimate connection with nature and with our society. And so if we make a strong foundation, really ethical, spiritual, justice foundation of compassion and kindness and respect for other beings, that we're not wishy-washy about that. That's it. That's really clear. It's nothing. It's not rigid. I mean, it's not rigid that I'm not going to go around and kill and rape and steal from people. I mean, it's like, it's nothing rigid about it. It's just natural to be, not do that. It's natural not to eat animal foods. It's just natural. I mean, it doesn't seem natural because we live in a world where there's McDonald's in every corner, but there's alternatives. So that's the main foundation, I would say, number one. And then number two, to contribute to peace, would be some of the things I just said earlier, to really work on understanding when we say veganism. The problem with the word vegan, I think, is that even though I like it a lot because it talks about motivation, right? The word vegetarian just means eating a plant-based diet, and usually includes dairy and eggs, and it doesn't have any reason in it, right? But the word vegan was coined by Donald Watson in 1944, and he said, veganism is a philosophy and way of life which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. So it's got in its definition the motivation, which is kindness and respect. So that, I think, is the key, is to really understand that we're doing this for a reason, to be kind for others. But the problem with the word vegan is that it creates a category, like I'm a vegan and you're not a vegan, and it creates all this
judgment, right?
Judgment, like and it also has this sort of connotation underlying it. Well, I'm a vegan, so I'm right, and you're not a vegan, so you must be wrong. I'm better than you. I'm higher than you. That kind of thing. That's terrible. It's not being any better than anyone. It's just, we've just kind of come home and realized something. So instead of the word vegan, I could just say, what do I say? I mean, I think a non-violent diet maybe, or just live in a way, a world peace diet. That's why I wrote world peace, world peace, a world peace way of living, kind of, just living natural. It's just a natural way. It's just a true human way of living. It's nothing, it's based on ahimsa, the core of all world religions, I think, is ahimsa, the old Sanskrit word. It means non-harmfulness, just to try not to harm other people and other beings unnecessarily. So I think that's important, not to get into this idea that as a vegan, I'm superior or anything like that, just to realize that this is a foundation, but that we're the same as other people. We're not any different. We've just awakened a little bit out of certain behavior and understanding. And then what is veganism? Essentially, it's ahimsa, or nonviolence. So then to do the best I can to contribute to world peace, then is to treat not just the animals with kindness, but the human animals with kindness. Because very often in our human world, we're not contributing to world peace, even though we're vegan, because we're criticizing other people and we're shaming them and we're blaming them and we're saying that, they should do this, they shouldn't do that. So I think we have to realize that going vegan is great, but it's just the first tiny little step of a much bigger, grander adventure of spiritual awakening that is our life. And it means bringing our whole life into alignment with ahimsa, or nonviolence, and really becoming a force for love and healing and liberation on this earth, however it is ours to do that. And what is our way to do that? Is it to create events, to network with other people, to create movies, to play music, to do art, to just meditate in a cave, whatever it is? What is your way to help do this? And no one can say someone else's way is better. I mean, we all have to find that for ourselves. But I think that's the way to create, each one of us can do, is this two-step process. The first step is going vegan. Okay, but we can't leave off the second step. The second step is then to actually activate that in our relationships. And that means that's where the meditation comes in, where we connect with our own purpose and then live this more congruently. And I think that's where we become much more effective as advocates, because if I'm a vegan, say, but I'm angry all the time, or I'm depressed all the time because I'm watching these videos. I mean, I watch the videos of what happens to animals, but I've met some vegans who say, oh man, I'm a vegan and it's terrible because there's McDonald's, there's Burger King, there's all this violence towards animals, people are getting sick, and I think, gosh, if someone's a vegan and they're so miserable, I would say, I'm glad I'm not a vegan if that's what it means. But I think it's really important for us as vegans to spend time every day to connect with the beauty of nature and the beauty of our life and the joy that we have of living, because that's the foundation of real health and real positive social transformation. and then to help build a movement based on positivity, based on joy and liberation and health and freedom, because that's what we're emphasizing, abundance. There's abundance. We can feed everyone on a fraction of the land. This is good news. So we should be, working on that second step, which is to embody veganism as a positive, life-affirming, joyful expression of our true nature that we are happy to share with everyone in a non-judgmental, very loving and respectful way.
So yeah, so basically creating a mindful food choices, right, for ourselves, and bringing spirituality to our life. So that's huge. Thank you so much, Will, for being with us today. I'm speechless. I so enjoyed our conversation. Tell our viewers where they can find you.
Yes. Oh, thank you everyone for watching and listening. And worldpeacediet.com is our website, worldpeacediet.com. And if you go there, you'll see that we have our lecture schedule. We still travel, my wife, Madeline, and I travel quite a bit, all over the United States, North America, as well as worldwide, giving presentations and lectures and concerts. And there's information about the book, as well as essays that I've written, and also links to videos that we have, Madeline's cooking videos, my lectures, and other interviews and so forth. And also just a place to get in touch. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond. And the whole idea is, I think, really to work together to help create a foundation for a world where peace and freedom and justice are possible. So we have the worldpeacediet.com website, also a Facebook group, World Peace Diet, and also we have a course, I mentioned earlier, online course, the World Peace Diet Facilitator Training. If you'd like to share these ideas with other people, learn more about them, it's an online self-paced training.
Tell us about your offer, your generous offer to our viewers today.
Oh yeah, we have an offer if anyone's interested, the World Peace Diet Transformation Package, which is basically, it's actually pretty good, because you can download for free a copy of my book, The World Peace Diet, the PDF. You can read it. Also an audiobook version of me reading the book, so you can listen to it while you're driving. So either reading it or listening, or both. And then also World Peace Meditations, which is a meditation that I created especially, and people find this really helpful. It's a meditation. It's 8 different meditations that you can do either seated, quietly, or even while you're driving. It's the kind of meditations that you can do even while you're doing something else. So people have found these things to be very helpful, and I just want to encourage everyone to make the transformation that's possible. So I'm providing these just only for your summit here. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much for your precious time. And I think with Dr. Tuttle's guidance, you can learn how to thrive, build a solid foundation of health and sharing effectively with others. Please stay healthy. I'm your host, Angelina Kardash, and thank you for watching us.